What's the tea with ACP? Here's the tea with ACP. That's kind of cute.
Hello and welcome to What's the Tea with ACP, a live webcast where we feature artists and we chat about what's going on in their lives, their art, and their social experiences. Today we have one of my best friends, super special woman, phenomenal woman, Meroë Adeeb, marvelous soprano, beautiful mother, and musician. The tea for today is MaterniTEA. Wonder what that could be about. So we'll talk about what led her to become an artist, what it's like being a musical mama, and what it's been like for her life as a musician so far. A little bit about Meroë. So while pursuing a sales and marketing degree at Tuskegee University, Miss Adeeb realized that singing in the university choir would not sustain her love for performing after graduation. Her path led her to Louisiana State University, where she began classical training and continued on to Binghamton. Child. Look, I'm tired, under the weather, but I'm here. Where she continued on to Binghamton University in New York for her master's degree. Two of her favorite roles performed are Violetta in La Traviata, Mimi in La Bohème, both performed under the baton of Maestro Vlad y Finca at Tri-Cities Opera. Other favorites have been singing the role of Clara in Porgy and Bess under the baton of Maestro John Demain at the direction of Francesca Zambello at the Glimmerglass Festival. Some other roles that Miss Adeeb has performed include Nanetta in Falstaff, Donna Elvira in Don Giovanni, Gilda in Rigoletto, and Bartu in Ben Moore's opera Odyssey. In addition to performing operatic roles, Miss Adeeb has enjoyed competing in vocal competitions, placing in the Mid-Atlantic region of the Metropolitan Opera National Council audition, as well as in the Deborah Voigt Vero Beach Opera Foundation inaugural international vocal competition. That is a tongue twister, okay? Recent performances include the title role in Puccini's Suor Angelica and Tri-Cities Opera, Annie in the world premiere of The Flood at Opera Columbus, Frasquita in Carmen with Annapolis Opera, Clara in Porgy and Bess with both Fort Worth Opera and Teatro Regio di Torino, and Galatea in Acis and Galatea in a virtual co-production with Annapolis Opera and Tri-Cities Opera. Please join me in welcoming the marvelous Meroë Adeeb. Listen, I told Meroë before we started, I said, look, this is just two friends talking today because I'm under the weather, Meroë's watching her baby boy, and it's fab. And that is what it is, honey. That's what we're getting today.
And we're good friends, so there will be no need for code switching, okay? We're keeping it real today.
Period. So please, I'm so happy to have you on, and thank you so much for making yourself available. I know she's a busy bee, and I'm so happy to have you on. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We already got some comments, honey. We got some.
Ooh.
Leah Hawkins says,
Leah, hey
"Hi."
girl.
Sharice gives hearts. We love to see
Aw.
it. Thank you so much for joining us today, y'all. I had a feeling this
Yes.
episode was going to be well received because there was that girl. So I want to talk about what the tea is for today. The tea for today is maternity. So I'm going to give you a little definition of what that means. Maternity is the state of being a mother or motherhood or motherly quality or motherliness. So it's an interesting word, right? Because I feel like when we think of like maternity, we think of like maternity dresses, the maternity ward, but all of that is derived from the actual usage of the word, which is surrounding motherhood. So I'm happy that we can chat a little bit about kind of you being what I've called a musical mama and how that has influenced your career after Kai was born. Hope it's okay. I said his name, child. I didn't even ask you before. Oh, Lord. Okay. Great.
Spoiler.
But so today we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about your musical journey so far, how that's been. We're also going to talk a little bit about kind of how opera companies can potentially support their artists with children, because that's been an issue for a while. And so we can talk a little bit about that as well. So how have you been, Meroë? How has this pandemic, it's been a year since the
Very
pandemic.
good question.
The last singing performance, one of the last singing performances I had was with you in New York City for Aural Compass Lift Every Voice.
Lift Every Voice, yeah.
Concert, yes, with our good friend Taylor Alexis DuPont.
Yes.
And it was fab. And if you haven't seen it, go to Aural Compass Projects and look it up because it's everything. With Michael, with Michael Lewis playing the piano. Really amazing recital, super fun recital. It was the last time I sang like in public.
We didn't know what was about to happen. We had no idea.
No idea. Also, I have a little different glass than I usually have. A little plastic blue moment. She's got a nice.
Listen, it's been a morning. So you want to know how I am or how I've been? Okay, this past year has been everything. Every emotion. It's happened. But there have been some really good things as well. So hey, Justin.
I'm gonna just pop them up because our friends are here.
Yes.
In effect.
Look,
okay.
Josh, y'all better support my sister.
Okay. People are here. This is what we want to say.
It's lit. Get a drink. So yeah, it's been a lot. Like the pandemic didn't hit me bad at first because none of my gigs were outright canceled. They were all like, oh, rescheduled, postponed. We'll do it in June. And then like June came and nobody sent an email.
Okay.
Actually, one thing has been rescheduled so far. So it'll be 2022, my first Beethoven's ninth. So I'm like, okay, I'm booked for 2022.
I mean, hey, that's a blessing because, you know, some of the girls are
one gig. Okay. And I'm grateful. So grateful. Exactly. But yeah, it's been a hell of a year. I mean, it's been a lot of family time, a lot of cooking, a lot of time in these four
Let me
walls.
tell y'all real quick, Meroë cooks down. Okay. The house, boom cat, okay. That's all I'm gonna say on it. She cooks. And it's
Thank you.
Well.
Listen, we eat over here. A little too much sometimes, but yeah, it's a pandy, so we good. Anyway, it's been a lot. Like I have three major support groups outside of my like immediate family, and they kept me safe. Like, I have two mom friends whose children are my son's age, and they live in walking distance, so we've been able to really support each other physically. And then I have my Black opera family. You know who you are.
Hey.
Like,
whoa.
we've gone through everything. Like,
Yeah.
literally, like, marriages, children, gigs, getting fired, like
See.
losing family members. Okay. Learning how to, like, planning concerts, performing them together. Okay. Like, financial planning,
Okay.
laughing, eating, cheers, like everything we have been through together. So shout out to the fam. Y'all have really helped me, as well as my sisters and two of my cousins. We just talk every single day in this on Marco Polo in this group. And we have become so close as adults because as children, we were only able to get together when our parents made time for that because we lived in different states. And now as adults, we're forming these relationships intentionally, and it is so beautiful. So these three groups of people have really helped sustain me through the pandemic. And so that's been one of the benefits, but I've had some highs and lows, but things are starting to align these days. And I'm like, okay, God, I receive it. Because there was a long, even before the pandemic, there was a dry spell. I was experiencing a dry spell career-wise. And I had some things on the horizon, but then once the pandemic happened, it was like nothing in sight. But I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that it's partially my doing and partially God's plan. Because I cannot take all the credit. Heck no.
100%. I'm wondering how has it been beneficial to you, like familiar? I mean, this you kind of mentioned that a couple minutes ago, but like, do you feel like, for me, there's been a lot of like bittersweet, sweet and sour, like really high points and really low points. And I'm wondering, do you feel like the high points have outweighed, for me, the high points have outweighed some of the low points? And so I'm wondering, what is that like for you?
If you had asked me that a few months ago, I would say no. Lately, yes. But like there have been some benefits. For instance, in the beginning of the pandemic, so my husband is a medical resident. His whole hospital basically went to only taking care of COVID patients, essentially. So because all hands were on COVID patients, he actually got more time off than he had ever before. So he was spending days and days at home. And it was like, okay, I can get down with that. Because I had help, I had support, because I am an opera singer, but when I'm not gigging, I'm home with my son. And when all your gigs are canceled, you're a stay-at-home mom all of a sudden, unplanned. Or at least that's my story. And so having him home more often was like very, very, it was a good thing for us. And then things, the numbers started going down. Other people went back to their normal, jobs in the hospital, and his schedule went back to normal.
Right, which is a pretty rigorous schedule, right? Like it's pretty.
Yeah, it's usually 6 days a week. He worked overnight last night, so he's knocked out right now.
Well, make sure when he wakes up, you thank him from us, because the front line responders, the people who are really in the trenches with everything that's been going on and just in general, are so special, and we're so thankful to have your man there to help us.
And he does help. He's very supportive of my family and my friends if they have questions or need advice. So yeah, I mean, he's not urgent care, in my house, but he's very receptive to helping. So we love that.
He's awesome. So one of the things that I noticed and that I know about you is that you've had an interesting journey, like coming into the music business, right? Like coming into opera, and like some of us followed a more traditional path,
Mhm.
and we just, well, popped in and we're like, all right, I guess I'll ride this boat. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yours is a little bit different. Can you talk to us a little bit about what your path has looked like in your specific musical training and in your journey?
Yes, and I'll start off by saying it. Just recently, I'm having a full circle moment, so I'll
Mm.
get to that at the end of this little journey. So I started singing in the choir at Tuskegee University in Alabama,
Mhm.
and that's when I realized that I had to do this. I had
Mm.
to use my voice. I mean, I sang growing up a little bit, but my stage fright was so crippling that
Mm.
I could not even manage. And I mean, no shade, but I was singing better than all the girls. Okay. I had a stronger voice. My choir director in middle school was like depending on me to help hold up the soprano section.
Mhm.
Everybody's been in a choir like that. I
Mhm.
was that girl. But when it came time to audition for a solo,
Me too. Mhm.
nerves, nerves. I couldn't handle it. So I
Mm.
could never manage to even get a solo. So I like stopped singing for a while, but it wasn't until I got to college I was like, I need to be in choir. I want to sing, and I realized this is my purpose. Like I have
Mm.
to. I what am I going to do after I graduate? Because I was getting a
Mhm.
business major, and I'm like, I can't just like okay, I could sing in a church choir, but that's not going to be sustaining enough for me. Because
Mhm.
my choir was like singing in chapel every Sunday, but also like going on choir tours, guest
Mm.
choir at so and so's church, and blah. Like we were busy.
Y'all were doing the thing.
So right, I was like, I need to be an active singer. I
Mm.
started taking voice lessons with my choir director, Dr. Barr,
Mm.
and I was just trying to figure out like how can I continue singing.
Mhm.
And it led me to this program that was actually started by a Tuskegee alum who kind of experienced the same thing as me. She like had one major in undergrad, and then she ended up going to grad school for vocal performance. So she
Mm.
started this small program where she took Tuskegee students mostly to Italy, and we like learned arias, sang, did a little
Wow.
concert, coached. But that was my first true operatic experience, and that sealed the deal. I was like, yes, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm
Wow.
doing. So then it was like, okay, I'm not going to transfer because my school didn't have music as a major.
Mm.
I was
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm not going to transfer and start over undergrad. So I'll finish
Mhm.
this business degree. And while I'm doing that, I'll train for a music program. So I ended up getting a full ride to Louisiana State University.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
that's where I did my second bachelor's. I spent 3 years there studying with Bob Grayson, who transformed my voice. Like, okay, I had no technique, but I had that, natural gift.
Natural. Mhm.
And he helped to refine it. But
Mhm.
by then I was like very tired of school.
Mhm. I
But
mean, yes.
right, 2 undergrad degrees. And so I was like, well, I'm just auditioning for Young Artist Program. That's it.
Mm. Mhm.
She was naive, okay? She was naive. Do you think I made it into those Young Artist Programs after 3 years of training? No, ma'am.
I'm sure they
So
have things to say.
I did not want to go to grad school, but one of the programs I auditioned for, Tri-Cities Opera, said,
Mhm.
"Oh, you don't have a master's. Well, we have this relationship with Binghamton University. By the way, you you was
I
stumbling
tried
boots,
it.
but you got it. You
I
got
tried it.
it. It is
It
a
was a
hard
far. It
Binghamton
takes a long pull to get
to get
there.
there. I love it. So they said, we're gonna hook you up, blah blah blah. They had one of the teachers call me and he recruited the crap out of me. He was like, oh, full ride this, singing roles that. I was like, okay, fine.
I got it.
So it worked out in my favor. I got to go to upstate New York. I got to sing roles with the orchestra, with a regional company, and I left with a degree. So it
Amazing.
was a win-win. And after that, I was kind of like, okay, stumbling and bumbling through this career, trying to like sing in competitions and audition for programs and things like
Mhm.
that. And I got married immediately after grad school. So that was like, okay, How we
Transition.
gonna do these 2 different careers?
Mhm.
Um, and it wasn't until actually the beginning of the pandemic that I met somebody that had the same path as me, like
Wow.
mhm,
Wow.
yeah. Well, maybe a little before, but, like opera singer
Mhm.
and physician, a couple
Mhm.
trying to
Mhm.
have kids and do gigs.
Right.
Struggle is real. But, we'll talk more about it, but yeah,
Mhm.
that's how my training has been. I've done some competitions and guest artist contracts here and there, still trying to figure it out, honestly, like, especially these days. But the full circle moment is that my choir director from Tuskegee, Dr. Barr,
Mhm.
now has this voice student from Maryland, which is where I'm from, and he asked me to help him out by giving her lessons. So I'm going to start
Oh.
teaching her next week, and that's where I got my start. And now
Wow.
I get to give back to somebody who's from where I'm from.
Wow. I got like chills from that. An amazing full circle moment. It really shows you and like solidifies that your path is your path. And when we try to like deviate from those pathways, or when we have moments where we're like, Lord, I don't know which way I'm going to go. I don't know what's happening. There's always that like thing that kind of push you back on track into whatever
Yeah.
pathway you're supposed to be on, right?
My path it doesn't look like anyone else's. And I am just now starting to accept that. I just, I spent a lot of time trying to fit into this traditional path that it doesn't work for most people, honestly.
At all.
This grad school, young artist program, emerging artists, boom. Like, that's not most people's story. Most people have to teach for some time, or they have
Mhm.
to do, a little catering job, or start their own little business, or whatever. And they
Mhm.
figure out multiple streams of income, which is totally fine and very smart.
Very
But
smart.
once I had my son, I was just like, how is this going to work? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that
Yeah.
out. And then the pandemic happened. So it's like, none of us know. So what was I trying to fit into that box for?
That's the thing I think that the pandemic has showed us, that like we all have to have something else in our back pocket.
Hmm.
And I think that that goes for any career, actually, like not just being a musician, but any career path. You have to have another something. And I think the people who probably suffered the most are people who weren't able to like adjust quickly, right? And
Yeah.
thankfully, you had the experiences behind you to use some of the knowledge that you gained during your undergrad experience and your experiences to be able to like switch it up, start something new, take on new challenges, like while in a panini press. You know what I mean? Like, it's fabulous.
Yeah. So I don't know what question you're going to ask. And I said ask. I hate it. Ask next.
Well, I'm gonna
Go ahead.
ask the question about, so if you've watched the show, you know that I ask my guests to present some questions, and then we'll answer those questions during the show. So the next question is, I kind of rearranged a little bit, but
Okay.
kind of combined too. But what has gig life been for you with a new baby? And well, I guess he's not a new baby anymore, honey. He's a toddler. And do you have any advice for artists who are interested in having children? Because I feel like that is something that a lot of artists push, 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 push.
And then it doesn't happen sometimes. And they have a feeling of emptiness. So I've
Exactly.
heard. So I've heard.
Exactly.
So what has gig life been for me? So while I was pregnant, I was like almost gigless. Not for the lack of trying. That's just how things worked out. So I had like a long-term substitute teaching job, and I did this, that, and the other to, stay relevant. And all of a sudden, like, these offers started coming in that I did not even audition for. And I'm like, really? Nobody was knocking on my door when I was not a mother. Now all of a sudden I have this tiny human and I'm getting emails like, are you available from the April 1st to the 24th? And I'm like, actually I am. I did not even audition for this. I had the busiest season of my career with a newborn.
Wow.
But I was able to do it because my mother is retired. My mother is retired. And she has been talking about touring with me since I first decided to sing opera. She's like, we going to Paris Opera House. Okay. I'm coming with you. Like whatever I do involving music, she's like, I'll be there. Okay. So when it came to her grandchild, she was, she wants to be there. I mean, she didn't come on my gigs with me before I was a mother. She did. Right. If it was like a one-day thing and we would just drive up and come back, yes, she would come, be my little travel buddy. But it was really important to both of us for me to breastfeed for at least 1 year. And she said, I'm going to come with you and help take care of your child so that you can continue breastfeeding your son for the first year. Because she said, my mother did that for me. She made sure that I could be supported in that way. And so, yeah, she came with me. My first gig was when Kai was 4 months. And we stayed at this family's house in upstate New York. And it was very much a learning curve. Us staying I mean, I had stayed there before. So I knew about like donor housing and all of that. But my mother was just like totally making herself at home in a way that feels uncomfortable to me. But she's just like, she's
that's
more
her life. That's her personality.
She's more like comfortable in other people's space than I am, where I'm like tiptoeing around trying to not be noticed. She's like, where's the seasonings at? We're cooking.
Isn't that so interesting? How we as artists, I feel like all these like donor families and things, they're always like, oh, make yourself at home, get comfortable, kick your shoes off. But then for us as artists, I feel like the first time you do actually get comfortable, then they're like, did you move my eggs? Did you move them from the right to the left side? And I feel like for people who aren't like, for your mom, right, who is probably on a similar, I don't know, maybe a similar age bracket or a similar like life experience, maybe it helped in that way for them to like, you know what I mean? Like that's very interesting.
Also, the thing is that like a lot of times when these people invite you into their home, they want to learn about you and we don't always have time or desire to sit and talk. But because my mother now I had stayed with this family twice before, so we were comfortable.
Each other, right.
But they got to learn a lot about me and where I came from by my mother being there. And my mother became like this with the husband. Like they became good friends. I was like, this is great. And then the next time we had to stay in a hotel for a month in the dead of winter in Columbus, Ohio. And it was like below freezing.
I remember this.
Rough.
Ice on the windows, honey.
Literally. Kai was 7 months at that point. It was rough. We stayed in like a embassy suite style type of place.
Like a extended stay kind of.
But it was like a studio. So just bed, kitchen, bathroom, blah, blah, blah. And I learned different things about my mother that I didn't know. Like she likes to sleep with the TV on. I like to sleep with the TV off. And the compromise was because she likes, just a little noise. So she was like, that's cool. I'll sleep with headphones. So we tried to like accommodate each other in that way. But I felt bad because they were essentially trapped in the hotel for a month.
Right.
And it was cold. If it had been nice outside, they could have taken little stroller walks and all of that. But it was rough. But she still used every opportunity to like talk to the conductor, talk to the director, because she wanted to pick everyone's brain. And like she loves creative people. So she everybody's like, your mother, she's so amazing. Like everywhere I go, they're like, your mother. And
Listen,
my sister's friends say the same thing.
she's fab. I mean, she's fab. You know, it's very rare in life where you meet, and it's so interesting because you can see where you get part of your personality from, because you also have part of your dad's personality, which
Mhm.
is different than your
Yeah.
mom's personality. And so for me as a friend to be able to see like how your mom is and then see how you are, it's so interesting and like beautiful, because I feel like when I first met you at Glimmerglass, I was enamored. I was like, oh, honey, she is that girl. That honey, she is that girl. Listen, y'all. Meroë came in,
Oh my God.
first of all, with this beautiful dress, this beautiful yellow and pink dress with like a bat. Is it yellow and pink? It's yellow and pink.
It's pink and green.
Pink and green. Pink and green dress with this collar that's like in
Neckline.
reverse, that's like just full of like life and vigor and verve and like, hi, how are you? Like just a naturally effervescent type personality. And I feel like your mom has that same
Oh, she has it way more than I do.
yeah, it's really interesting. It's beautiful. It's really
Yeah.
beautiful to see. But
Thank
anyway, go ahead. So
trapped in a hotel for a month. It was a struggle. The next gig I did was in Maryland, so I got to stay at my parents' house. Oh my God, that was way better. That was way better.
there.
Leah knows my mother too. Yes, Sharice, you've met my mom.
Okay.
Everybody here knows
We
my mother.
know. Michael said, life, vigor, and verve, honey.
Um, yeah, that one was nice. I mean, what sucked is that I had a long commute, but both my parents were there, so it wasn't just my mother helping me. It was both my parents. My sister was coming down on the weekends. It was much better, and there was more space, like not a hotel. Okay.
Right.
And then the following time was in Texas for Porgy and Bess. This time I was like, I'm going to pay for us to have more space. So Fort Worth Opera, they take very good care of their people, okay? They said, okay, if you're bringing family and you need extra space, we'll still pay for like the amount that we were going to pay for a single room. You pay the difference. So I was like, we get a 2-bedroom. Oh, that was lovely. It was lovely.
Yeah.
The weather was much better, so we're able to spend a little time outside. There were actually 3 productions of the opera going on, of different operas going on. So she was like, "Well, I'm gonna meet all these people. You don't have time to hang out with them, but because they were doing I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a Spanish language opera, and also a brand new opera, world premiere, and then as well as Porgy and Bess. So she was like, I'm gonna interview all y'all. I want to know all about everything. So she made so many friends between her and Kai crawling around the lobby.
Oh my God.
She made a lot of friends. And I was just like, okay, y'all have fun. Off I go to rehearsal. But that one worked out really good. And then the last one was me having to leave and go to Italy by myself. And I left Kai with my parents.
That was a different one. That hit different, right?
But you know what? Like, I was excited about it because I was like, I'm going to get to sleep.
Listen, if you are a parent or you are a person who lives with a child in your home,
Nobody woke me up.
That is the real honest tea, okay? Honest tea. Because, you know, I live with my nephew, my sister, my mom, and typically we aren't in close quarters for a long period of time. Usually I'm gone on a gig, not living at home. But during the pandemic, we moved into a house, right? And before that, we were in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. 4 people was not working. So we ended up moving into a house, which has been really great because we have our space. You know, it's a 4-bedroom home now. We each can be in our space, right? But living with a child,
it's much.
It's much. It is much. It is a little bit of a I don't want to say it's a hard adjustment because I think thankfully, I feel good about the way that we interact with each other, and somehow my like paternal instincts just like kicked in, and like it is definitely a different experience living in a multi-generational household.
Yes, yes.
And so I find it really amazing because for me, we've talked many times, and a lot of time you're kind of taking care of Kai. You're at home. Especially during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would have been able to. I mean, not my kid, so I would have had to if it were, but
Yeah.
it would have been very hard. Being home constantly and not being able to like go out and do things. Especially we're still young persons, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? We're like, we still have, like Michael said, life, vive and vigor, something like that. And so I can see how it gets a little like, it's interesting. I now understand what it's like to be with a child, to have a child consistently around you, constantly wiping hands, correcting,
And this one,
catching things.
he's wiggly, y'all.
He's been
Like,
good. He's been good. He's there, but he's been very quiet during our.
he's extreme. I think he finally fell asleep, but he is very, very. He has a really strong personality, and he's very physically strong.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a
He's
lot.
kind of a buff baby. He's like, boom.
He eats, okay? He's extremely fast. Like I can literally go running with him, and he's 2.5.
Oh my gosh!
Now he can't go for like 3 miles, but
he can keep up.
He runs better than many adults. No joke.
I love to see it. I mean, fierce. But I'm wondering. So talking about this, we both have had experience with being around to help. Well, for me, being around to help raise my sister's child, and you raising your own child with your husband. Do you have any advice for artists who are interested in having children, or who are interested in maybe even like adopting a child or bringing a child into their homes?
I cannot speak on adoption.
I mean, not on adoption.
I know that's a whole thing. That is a whole
bringing a life, a young life into your life.
Prayerfully, you want the child, because wanting the child makes the hard times worth it. Mm-hmm. So Kai was definitely wanted, but I think that if you're planning ahead, you have to figure out some kind of support system if you plan on continuing to perform. I mean, you need support regardless, even if you plan on staying with the child, because you just can't be with the child 24 hours a day. You still have your own needs. And those needs will be more important than they are now. Once you're spending most of your time taking care of somebody else. So yeah, I think the support is the main thing. I don't know how I would have done the out-of-town gigs I've done without my mother and my father. I have no idea, and I don't have to think about it because they offered to help me immediately. I never had to ask. All they asked for was, send me your dates because I need to know. Okay, hurry up and send me your dates. And I'm like, I ain't got no dates right now. They're like, send me your dates. So when I do get dates, I'm like, okay, block off your calendar because you're taking care of Kai. Yeah, if you like some kind of family support, so whether it be friends or loved ones, like family members, you may need someone to travel with you. If you are not trying to breastfeed, or if your kid is older than a year or something like that, and I say try out leaving them. Definitely, because you will be able to focus and rest. The last gig I did was with Annapolis. It was in Annapolis, but it was a co-production between Annapolis and Tri-Cities, and they offered me a hotel. Although it was in Maryland and my parents are in Maryland. So some days I commuted, other days I stayed at that hotel. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's one of the things you didn't ask this question yet, but that's one
No.
thing opera companies can do to support their artists that are parents is like offer a hotel room.
Actually, let's kind of move into that too.
Yeah, please. Like, okay, I think the first thing that is like for the long run is us parents in the industry need to like incorporate taking over these opera companies and or starting our own, because you cannot understand if you're an old man with no kids. I didn't understand.
Right.
My friends didn't have kids. And my sisters don't have kids, so I never saw the commitment that it took up close. I said, oh, I would do this. I would never do that. Child, I have made a liar of myself many times. If yeah, I really think that like if like a group of moms, dads, can get together and like start infiltrating into some of these companies, there's going to be somebody that understands. For example, when I worked at, sorry, my ear is itching with these silly headphones. I cannot take it anymore. Okay.
Do you think? Do you need? Because I do the same thing. Usually I have my headphones in. I actually usually have them in, but I usually go like this. I switch it to the other side and I just do a little.
Okay. So I worked for Opera Columbus, and they first they took a little while to give us the hotel housing assignment, but eventually they did, and they put me with another girl. Like in a suite with 2 rooms. And I was like, excuse me, I'll be bringing my child and my mother with me. Is it possible I can have my own room? And they were like, oh, we didn't know. Sure. So I think the way it worked out, I think there was an odd number of women. And so somebody was going to get a single suite. So because I, asked, that person became me. And yeah, because that wasn't going to be fair to anybody else to like have my baby and my mother there. That was not going to be fair. So they gave me the single suite, and I'm sorry. But first of all, I would like to say that a woman and a mother was the artistic director, Peggy Creadai, and she was like, you are doing it, girl. She said, I traveled with my 2 kids and it was hard. And she was like, I support you. They made sure I got breaks that I needed for pumping. And I had somewhere to store the breast milk, and they were very accommodating. And it was so wonderful to work for an organization run by not only a woman, but a mom, because she understood. Next time was at Fort Worth Opera. The stage director is a mom. And she was like, you gonna get your breaks. Trust me, I'm gonna make sure of it. And at one point, there was a little bit of resistance because she did a lot of fighting for me without me knowing. She was like, she needs this, she needs this. And I know because I didn't get it when I had a new baby. At what point, somebody, I don't know, was like kind of dragging their feet in terms of accommodations. And she came to me in tears because she was like, you need this. You need a refrigerator to keep the breast milk in. You need access to you need the break. And she was like, I'm going to make it happen. And she did.
Wow.
Okay. She looked out for me. So when you have moms, and it doesn't have to be like, it's not necessary that it's like only breastfeeding moms will understand. No, parents will understand. So yes, there's that. But I think they just need to like listen, like if the stigma can die already of being a parent in this industry. And I know a lot of people that have had babies in the last year during this pandemic because they're like, hey, the time is now. I mean, if you are already ready, whatever that means for you, get it in now. Okay. Get it popping, because the time is now. And there are a whole bunch of new opera moms out there that are figuring it out, because all of us are figuring out new things right now. These opera companies are also like just friggin' trying to figure it out. So
Right.
we may as well help them. When it comes to accommodations, it's like, oh, you want me? And here I come with my
Mhm.
whole family.
Well, it's also interesting because outside of the musical space, if you're working at a typical 9 to 5, not even typical, but at a more corporate space, you're going to get parental leave. You're going to get, some of those additional benefits.
Yeah.
And I think that, oh, that's sweet. I think that we have to stop not treating ourselves, stop letting companies and organizations treat us as easily
Disposable.
disposable, right? Because we each have our own special, specific thing that we bring to the table. And
Yeah.
the fact you have this experience now as a
Yeah.
mother, that influences you as an artist.
Let's talk about how my first gig, well, the first thing I did was like a birthday party
Mm.
recital thing. The first operatic gig I did after having my child was for Angelica.
Well, if you know the plot, then you know that is wow.
Now, fortunately, thank God, I couldn't relate 100% to her story,
Right.
because spoiler alert, the baby didn't make it. But to have a child and like just know, like, it's so there's so many things that can go wrong. It's a blessing that we are here, because so many things go wrong,
Right.
or can go wrong with little babies. And so, like, just to have that knowledge and also the love for the child really informed my singing. And I had to keep telling myself when singing, like, do not think about Kai. Do not think about Kai.
Mhm.
And he like slipped in one time. If TC is watching, she was there. And the whole throat went, nope,
Right.
you ain't singing right now. And I had to stop.
Mhm.
And then I knew how far I could go emotionally.
Right.
And that's not I've done that with different roles too, where it's like, okay, here it is. Now you're hysterical and you can't
Mhm.
sing or breathe. So take
Right.
it back 2 steps. Then you can still give a legit heart-wrenching performance, gut-wrenching performance.
Wow.
And you make them cry. If you cry, you can't sing, honey. But
Okay.
yeah, my real life experience, I always with every role, I try to find something, an example from my life that I can relate to the character
Mhm.
to make it real.
I agree. I've been doing that a lot within the last like maybe 3 or 4 years, where I've been trying to, when I'm experiencing something that's either highly emotional, highly religious, highly spiritual, highly um, excited and happy, taking a minute to pause and absorb that emotion and see how I actually physically react, or how I'm actually, it's really hard to do actually, but to physically see how do you react when you are at your wit's end and you're crying in a car,
Mm. I
you know?
just had a memory of being on stage at the Glimmer Glass Festival, and every performance I look over to my left and you hear with tears in your eyes.
Oh
Just
yes, honey.
you brought it every show. I don't know how, in the beginning, I understand, like, because it's like, we're feeling it, this new
Mhm.
group of people for the first time, the emotions are high, but after 10 shows, you sometimes just have to fake it, but not you, honey. Those tears were still flowing.
I, especially with certain operas, I really try to like, I've thankfully learned how to cry and sing. It's very hard to do, but it's something that I've kind of trained myself to do, because I think for me, outside of just being, not just being, but outside of being a singer, I like to think of myself as an actor singer.
Yeah.
And for me, it actually helps me vocally to let some of the emotion
Release.
out, right? It's like such a release. That's why after those shows, honey, I was Drained.
It's draining. And I'll tell you, like, first of all, Sopranos always. Why do we always have to die?
Okay, come on.
Show at the end. So another spoiler alert: Francesca Zambello has Jake and Clara drown. Well, she kind of shows it on stage. It is talked about, but in this production you can see it. So me and Justin Austin are like swimming towards each other. And the first few shows we were bawling.
It's beautiful.
Because Eric Schonfogel, our choreographer, I guess we weren't doing it good enough one day. And he was like, imagine your spouse drowning and you're watching it and you can't do anything about it. And we were both like, He said that to us backstage.
Wow.
Because we were not bringing it. And after that, we didn't have a choice. We were both on stage crying, and then we would leave the stage, and y'all were still continuing singing. We were just like, it's okay. It's okay. We would just be like hugging because the emotions were like way up here because we had brought it.
Right.
That was a summer. Yes. Oh Lord. A lot of emotions.
A lot of emotions.
Oh my God.
But
it was a beautiful summer.
It's one of those things where when you are able to find that, and for me too, sad to say, but I find it more with new American composers or new composers in English, because obviously I can relate a little bit more to what's happening. And of course we all translate and we all, know the story and we know what's happening around us. But sometimes the fact that we're singing in our mother tongue, it's a different emotional experience, right? I know we're getting a little off topic, but it's a different emotional experience when you really can like bite into the words, or you can really see like these things happen, these things happening, right? Like if I'm doing a show, girl, for instance, Dialogue of the Carmelites, I have not done it, but I think it would be emotionally touching, but I don't know if I would be able to connect to it on an emotional level as deeply as I would with something that I can really connect with. This is happening now, or this happened in the recent past. You know what I mean? Like things that I can really connect with. And I find that in new music, I get that so much more, that deep emotional connection that really makes me feel like, wow, I am an artist and I am painting and I am in this moment and I am somebody. I'm a professional. It's hard to get that sometimes with operas that were written in 1674.
Yeah.
Or 1728. You just it's such a hard unless the company puts it into like maybe a more modern setting. Sometimes that might help. I mean, an opera that always makes me cry is La Bohème.
Oh, yes.
Always. No matter what the production is, no matter what, always cry at Bohème. But it's because it's one of the first operas I watched the whole way through. And the reason I watched it was because of Rent. Right? Because Rent is the musical, kind of a musical adaptation of Bohème. And I felt so, for these characters, I had so much compassion and love for the characters that were built. And I was able to translate that into the characters of La Bohème.
Yeah.
And I was able to like keep that line. So I think it's something to think about in the future. When you're looking at roles, and especially now as new operas are being created by creators, thinking about how can we really help amplify the singing artist with the content that we're creating. But anyway, like I got off on a tangent, child. Sorry. But
we just need to talk.
I also think going back to the question, how can opera companies and arts organizations support their artists who have children?
Oh,
Go ahead.
Ask, what do you need?
Mm.
What do you need? Because even if you don't understand from personal experience, sometimes all I needed was a 20-minute break to pump. Okay. Or, I mean, if they gave me a hotel room, that was kind of like, okay, I'll handle everything there.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know, just asking, because it depends on the family.
Mm-hmm.
So ask and truly try to be accommodating. Don't say, oh, we haven't done that before. Okay, well, guess what? Here's your chance.
Right. Right.
So yeah, just ask. Like, I felt when I was pregnant, I felt like I had to hide it because I felt like it was going to ruin potential opportunities for me. And
Right.
I wasn't necessarily wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it didn't end up doing that,
Right.
but I remember going to do an audition one time for Chautauqua, and there was a girl who went right before me who was very pregnant. And this is long before I was even married. And I remember thinking, they're not going to give her that job. I don't remember how she sounded or anything. I just remember she was out. Okay. And I was like, and to my knowledge, I've never heard of anyone going to Chautauqua with a child. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but sometimes if you do have a child, they're like, okay, well, we can't give you housing, and you still have to be at all rehearsals all of the time, and like abandon your child while you're here. Like, no, ask, what do you need? That's the main thing.
Wow.
How can I help you?
I think it's interesting too, being like a person who I don't have a kid, but I know what it's like to be around a child and to help raise a child. And for me, that helps inform. I mean, this isn't going to be for everybody, but it's helped me inform and be more thoughtful when it comes to moms and dads and the responsibilities that they have for their child and what goes into that, what happens behind the closed doors of raising a child. And it's hard when you haven't experienced that, right? Like, it's like you were saying earlier, it's a little bit tricky when you haven't had the experience. But you also have to take a moment and take a step back and say, if it were me in this situation, how would I want to be treated? Right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we don't necessarily get that kind of treatment. We get more of, well, you have a kid. How are you expecting to take care of your child while we're in performance?
And you know what's crazy is that it's not crazy, but like, okay, a lot of people sing really well, but look at my mommy. Thank you, Mom. When a mom who's like been up with her kid all night long comes to rehearsal and sings down, it's even more impressive, because it's like, look, that technique is solid. Okay. The professionalism, she's off book, she's on time. Okay. You can't tell me that it's hindering me.
Right.
I'm working off of minimal sleep. Okay. I just had to deal with like my child this morning, upset stomach for the first time in his life. He's like, really? Was I late? No. And I got makeup on my face. Was it a struggle? Absolutely. Okay. Elliot can tell you, I was frazzled when I got on this computer, but I got it together by the time y'all saw my face.
Exactly.
That little prayer, all of that.
And I think too, because I know that you have a child, right? Like, I know that because of my own experience, how it is when, like, my mom took my nephew out of the house for Western this weekend, because usually he's not here. But he was here this weekend, and my mom and my sister had to work, and my mom was like, Okay, JC, let's go. Right? But because I know that experience, when you came on and we were talking backstage, I was like, Meroë, it's fine. I think that some people would have been like, but
Need
it's
to
like one of those
reschedule.
things where it's like, right. But it's one of those things where like, if you know what it's like to be a parental figure, you know that like that part of it doesn't, what happens behind the scenes doesn't matter until you get onto the set. And even when you're on the set, I tried to make it really open. Like I was like, please let Kai come on, child, it'll be fine. And you're like, he's gonna touch everything. And which is, but as a person and as a host, I want to make sure that my guest is comfortable. And because
Mhm.
you're a mom, that's something that I have to make sure that I account for. Like, I'm not gonna like rush you. I'm like, we have
Yeah.
time. You're okay. And I think that some people they don't get it. They wouldn't get
I
it.
that there's I mean, opera, the performing arts, you have to be so dedicated that one of the things we're taught, without it being said explicitly, but one of the things that we're taught is that if you don't dedicate all of your waking hours to this, you're not serious.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have any distractions, like some people don't even want you to get married because
Right.
now you have another person to consider.
Mm-hmm.
And that's BS. I know opera moms that are doing 10 times more than I do. Do they sleep? I don't know. But it looks like they get good 8 hours every night. Are they stressed? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, but they're still creating art.
Right.
And that's a beautiful thing because we need that. We, as artists, we need to create and that release that you were talking about. One other thing that has happened during the pandemic is that I started studying voiceover in July. Still very much studying, okay, but I've done a few little things. And
Let me toot my friend's horn.
toot, toot.
If you go to All Compass Project's Facebook or YouTube page, you'll see that we have a series called We Too Sing America, which is narrated by Mrs. Mrs. What's the married one?
Mrs.
Ms. Meroë Adeeb. And it's
But I'm not Mrs. Adeeb. That's my mother.
oh
I'm Mrs. Chimobe.
oh
But for arts
Mrs.
or
Chimo.
for music and voiceover, I use Adeeb. It's very confusing.
Mrs. Chimobe.
Yes,
You'll
amen.
hear the narration, and it's really beautiful and really amazing, and it adds a whole nother level to a project that I feel like was already a really
It's been wonderful to find a new way to use my voice. And I can do it around Kai's schedule. The challenge right now is that usually when I have time to do it, I'm tired.
right.
But he's going to preschool in 2 months.
Hey, come
So I
on.
can actually, okay, I got waking hours to work on my business. And it's a beautiful thing because I get to use, like, okay, my grandmother was very adamant about using God's gift that he gave me. Okay. And if you don't use it, you will lose it. And during the pandemic, I wasn't able to use it in the way I was using it before. But voiceover allows me to still use my voice, my acting skills, my diction skills, my way of interpreting a text. And it's not singing, but it is still telling a story. It is still communicating. And so I've been able to invest in gear and tech that serves voiceover, but it also really helps with singing as well. Because now I have like quality equipment to record on or to do things like this on.
Okay, I said she's getting ASMR teas.
Yes. Oh Lord. So yeah, so it's been a blessing to be able to focus, change lanes a little bit, but they still meet. It's wonderful. And thank you to Oral Compass Projects for giving me the opportunity to practice.
Yes. And it's
Yeah.
really beautiful. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I tried to do it myself for a few episodes and it was not for me.
It's not for everybody.
I have many talent. That
You
one is
do.
not one. So, I said, let me move up this lane. Please. Please. But yeah, so I think that's amazing. And that's kind of what I was touching on earlier about having another thing in your back pocket or being able to easily easily kind of switch lanes and easily be able to kind of transform when need be and go back when you don't need to, right? Like being able to kind of breeze through different avenues. And not everybody has that. Not everybody can do
Yeah.
that. And
I
I
would
think
say,
no, go
sorry,
ahead. Go
if
ahead.
it weren't for the pandemic, I wouldn't have, because obviously I knew about voice acting, but
Mhm.
I wouldn't have pursued it because, it's like if you're not spending your time working on your art, on your craft, then you're not serious about it. And it's like,
Right.
well, the theaters are closed. So, and honestly, the virtual, like record from your home
Mhm.
is not my jam. It is
Mhm.
not my jam. It does not fulfill me
Mhm.
personally.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I've done some little stuff, but again, I have to work around my child's schedule.
Right.
So, okay, he's taking a nap. You want me to sing, like sing? Because I can't record with him awake because you'll hear him in the recording or you
Mhm.
hear the TV.
So it also
And
takes some planning being a musical mama. You
yeah,
gotta
and then
plan.
yeah, like it was, I will say like certain things were easier when he was smaller. Like I could, if I was trying to learn new music, I would plunk out the notes and sing quietly while he was asleep, and then I would full out practice while he was awake. He didn't care. He would just
Mhm.
sit in his swing and stuff like that. Now, like I don't have a nanny or a babysitter to just watch him so I can practice. No, he gonna sit on the couch with some snacks. Ooh, see, technical difficulties. This thing is falling out. He gonna sit with some snacks and watch a cartoon, and then I can practice. And he still comes in there,
Mhm. Plays
interrupt,
the piano.
play the piano, sing scales. He's like,
Okay.
"Ee, ee."
Listen, Jason Hyde, the next musical duo sensation. Okay.
Amen. Let's
I'm
make it
feeling
happen.
that into existence.
Yeah, he's got pretty good like relative pitch. We're working on it. He has this music book and it has like do re mi and all that. So
Mhm.
I got him to sing it and then I went to record it for you guys. And
Mm.
then he was like flat.
Said,
And
nope.
I was like, no, we're not sharing this next time. We're working on it.
Oh my God. I love it. I love it. Well, we're gonna wrap up because you got a child to get to, and it's about that time. So
Oh,
I just want to, I know, I
always
just
goes by
want
fast.
to, it does. I want to thank you so much for coming on and for being a very, very special guest. And, um, oh, what happened? Oh,
I'm saying all.
I thought you said, oh, I was like, what I miss? Oh, but thank you. It's it's not super, well, it's been more often than not that I get to talk to a really dear friend in this kind of space. And I'm just so thankful and grateful that you were able to come on and be here and be present and well. And as they say, thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Sharice.
And we love
Joy.
you. I love you so much. And I really
I love you
appreciate
too.
everything that you offer me here and outside of this space. So, um,
And your hair looks great.
thank you. She's giving you fire. She's giving
Amen.
you
I love it.
amen. Ow, thank you.
We talk a lot about hair for those who don't know.
We talk a lot about it. If anybody needs some tips, hit us up. But yeah, thank you so much. And hang out in the Interior Illusions Lounge backstage.
The reception.
In the reception, I'll bring out some hot wings and a little sweet tea or something, and
Amen.
we'll have a little snack. But just hang out for me, and I'm gonna close up the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty, so thank you again to our amazing guest, Meroë. I really enjoyed this conversation. Please let us know if you enjoyed the conversation as well. Please go ahead and like and share and subscribe if you'd like to see more of this content. Please also be sure to check out our podcast on Apple Music, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. They're kind of like little quick bites to eat of different episodes that we've done so far. Make sure you tune in a couple weeks from now. We're going to have another guest on the show, and I cannot wait to spill the tea with you another day. Ooh, ooh, ooh. What's the tea?